Discovering Junction Creek. Polluted waters. A Junction Creek Stewardship Committee production.
In this video, we are going to explore how plastic and pollution can impact urban waterways, such as the one we have here in Greater Sudbury called Junction Creek. Pollution comes from the Latin word pollute, which means to soil. Pollution is anything that soils, harms, or damages the environment and puts it out of its regular healthy balance. It can come in many forms, such as solid, liquid, gas, noise, and light. Sometimes you can see pollution, such as oil and gas coming out of a car, or litter on a street. But sometimes you can't see pollution. For example, in the wintertime, when the roads are salted, some of that salt can get into our waterways and pollute the water. Or any kind of fertilizer that you might not actually see the impact of what's happening. Pollution enters our waterways by runoff and stormwater during wind and rain events. Did you know that not all stormwater, so any of the water going into the storm drains in the city, is treated, and most of it actually gets put straight directly into Junction Creek? This means that any pollution, such as litter, gas and oil, or de-icer salts, can get into Junction Creek whenever it ends up on a pavement, a road, a sidewalk, anything that is near that stormwater drain. This also can impact local connected water bodies, not just in Junction Creek, and it can make a really big impact on the local environment. Here are some of the ways that the Junction Creek Stewardship Committee is monitoring those areas that are impacted by high levels of pollution. We take monthly water samples and send them to a lab for further analysis of different nutrients, metals, and chemicals. In addition, we monitor litter accumulation along and around the green spaces of Junction Creek in places such as Garson, New Sudbury, downtown, Little Britain, and Copper Cliff area. This helps us determine litter hotspots to make sure we coordinate community cleanups in those areas where there's a lot of litter and plastic pollution. So we're going to focus a little bit more on the litter and plastic pollution because it is a common issue in urban waterways such as Junction Creek. Plastics, believe it or not, were once made by plant resins, fibers, and coal. However, now they are composites, so multiple materials put together, like polyethylene terephthalate, which makes water bottles. These take a long time to break down in the environment. Even after breaking down into tiny pieces called microplastics, they can make a really bad impact. These microplastics can continually cycle through the food chain, starting off in herbivores that may accidentally eat them, which can be eaten by carnivores, further eaten by other carnivores, and may end up actually in us if we decide to eat a fish that has eaten some microplastics by accident. Did you know that microplastics have been found in Junction Creek, and plastics have been found in the stomachs of fish at Ramsey Lake? Plastic pollution not only leaches chemicals like dioxins, phthalates, and cadmium into the water, but also poses the risk of entanglement and ingestion by wildlife, which is lethal for wildlife. What can you do to reduce the plastic waste and improve water quality in local waterways such as Junction Creek? Well, first, you can decide to be environmentally conscious, sustainable stewards for the water. This means taking care of Junction Creek by using creek-friendly practices and helping to reduce water pollution by minimizing the amount of litter and plastic you create. The absolute best way to be mindful about how we impact the creek is to pay attention to our day-to-day habits around plastic waste. Refuse, reduce, reuse, and recycle. These words have probably been in your head since grade 1, but they are still applicable today. These tips and tricks are going to help you use those 4 words again to make sure that you reduce litter in your waterways in the city. Pick a single-use plastic item in your life and find an alternative way to replace it. For example, you can use reusable water bottles instead of using plastic ones. They are good for the environment, they can save a lot of money, and they look pretty cool too. Want to reduce even more plastic waste? Go room to room in your house. Start in the kitchen. See if you can replace anything in your kitchen that you use that's plastic, like utensils. And then you can even move on to your bathroom. Do you use a lot of plastic toothbrushes, and can you replace them with something else equally as reusable or sustainable for the environment? One of my favorite ways to reduce plastic use is to get stationery like this, or recycled paper, and actually write a bullet journal of what I've been changing in my day-to-day plastic lifestyle. So this is kind of a cute way to see what you've actually been progressing in, set some goals, set some intentions, challenge you and your friends to weekly goals. We have just created a plastic-free diet challenge where you can literally use that journal if you want and track your weekly habits. And sometimes we have prizes available on our social media, so check those out too. Say no to single-use plastics. So if somebody decides to put plastic utensils in your takeout bag, just give it back to them and say, no thanks, I have some metal utensils at home. If you're eating in, make sure you bring along a kit of reusable utensils like forks, knives, spoons, mugs, takeout containers, and that way you can even reduce while you're eating in. Be creative, find some fun ways to reduce your single-use plastics. Sometimes I like to take a plastic jar and use it to keep my money for a fund for something that I've always dreamed of buying. Another one, which you know already, is don't forget to recycle what you know is recyclable and help keep your neighborhood clean of garbage. Attend one of our public cleanups or organize your own or volunteer for somebody else who's doing a public cleanup. It's an easy way to pick up garbage and to keep our environment clean. Finally, check out all the great resources and organizations online and around Greater Sudbury that are important and that are fighting for this waterway to be kept clean. Even really small changes can add up to make a really big difference. If everyone continues to do individual actions and learn more about plastic waste consumption, we can see that litter decreasing in our waterways and in the local environment. By working together, we can improve the health of our watershed and the greater community. In this video, you learned about pollution, different types of it, and also more specifically about plastic pollution in Junction Creek, how it gets into the waterways, what we are doing to actually prevent that from happening or mitigating that from happening, and you learned how to be environmentally conscious stewards for the environment. For more information about upcoming events and cleanups, check out our website and our social media, which also has resources on how to learn more about plastic waste, Junction Creek, and the environment in Greater Sudbury and how we can protect and conserve it.